Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mr. Fluent English.
The place where we help you improve your English and your life.
I'm your host, Paul.
Today, we're diving into something I think a lot of you are interested in. Making your everyday English sound, well, better, more confident, more sophisticated. We're looking at your sources and goals, which are really focused on these quick, high-impact vocabulary upgrades.
It's a common challenge.
Absolutely. The material mentions the scenario, like with a friend named Sarah. You might understand English really well, read complex stuff.
Your comprehension's fine.
Right. But then when you speak, you feel stuck, like you only have simple words available.
That's the core issue we're tackling.
And the core idea from the sources, which I love, is that you don't need to get bogged down in complicated grammar.
Not at all.
It's about finding better, more precise ways to say the same thing, replacing the generic word with something more specific.
Exactly. So our mission today is pretty tactical, actually. We're going to look at those really common basic sentences, mostly the I am ones.
Yeah, we use those all the time.
And pull out the advanced alternatives the source material suggests. We're basically hunting for words with more semantic density. What's fascinating here, and the sources point this out, is how much we lean on the word very.
Oh, right. Very happy, very tired.
Yeah, we use very because the adjective itself is maybe a bit weak. But the stronger word, it often already has that intensity baked right in.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's dive straight into those everyday feelings, emotional states, physical states. This seems like the first big place to make a change.
It is.
Going from, say, 2 words, very, plus the basic adjective, to just one really powerful word.
Makes a huge difference.
Okay, so take internal states. Instead of just saying, I am happy, you could say, delighted.
Yes, delighted. Much more expressive.
Or for being really tired, I am very tired becomes exhausted.
Exhausted. Feels heavier, doesn't it?
Totally. And for saying you're busy, I am busy, gets that upgrade to I'm tied up.
Okay, hold on there a second. Because those three you just mentioned, delighted, exhausted, tied up, they're actually really good examples of different registers,
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, delighted and exhausted are great for, personal stories. They boost the emotion. But tied up, that's often more professional, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I can see that.
If you tell a colleague, I'm tied up this afternoon, it sounds more organized, maybe more professional than just, I'm very busy, which can sound a bit, frantic.
Or even a little defensive sometimes. Yeah, that's a great point about register. It's not just about sounding better, but sounding right for the situation.
Precisely. Context matters.
Okay, so moving to more physical needs. No more, I am hungry. Or
Starving. Classic upgrade.
And expressing happiness for someone else, that standard, I am very happy for you, can become, I am thrilled for you.
Thrilled. Yeah, it really conveys genuine excitement.
And we definitely need to look at those big emotions, the really intense ones. They show this power perfectly. Like extreme sadness, the basic is, I am very sad. But the source gives us that instant upgrade, I am heartbroken.
Heartbroken. It's visceral. And think about fear and anger, too.
Right.
You say, I am very scared. And you're relying on very to do the work. But if you say, I am terrified.
Yeah, the intensity's just in the word.
Exactly. Or swapping, I am very angry for I am furious. Same thing. Linguistically, you're not just modifying the idea of anger, you're naming its peak.
Powerful.
But maybe a quick word of caution here.
Sure.
Use these really strong hyperbolic words strategically. If you say you're terrified every time you see a house spider, then the word kind of loses its punch when something genuinely terrifying happens.
Good point. It's about precision, making the words count when they need to.
Okay, so beyond just pure emotion, what about talking about certainty or interest?
Moving away from just vague statements.
Exactly. So for certainty, I am sure becomes the slightly more formal, more definite I am certain.
It's real stronger. And if you're not sure, instead of just I am not sure, you could say I am doubtful.
And doubtful is interesting. It often sounds more considered, doesn't it? Like you've thought about it rather than just not knowing. Can be quite useful professionally.
Suggests analysis, not just indecision. I like that. And curiosity. I am interested versus I am fascinated.
Fascinated implies a much deeper level of engagement, like you're really drawn in.
Right. And the flip side, instead of sounding maybe a bit passive with I am bored, you could state I am uninterested.
Which suggests more of a conscious decision, a lack of connection.
Yeah. And finally, for surprises, I I am surprised is fine, obviously, but I am astonished that conveys real shock or wonder.
Astonished, yeah. And there's an interesting shift sometimes in how we describe our internal state versus, say, commenting on a situation. Take worried versus concerned.
Okay.
The source suggests moving from I am worried to I am concerned. Often that feels like moving from personal anxiety to a more sort of composed, outward-looking assessment. Concerned sounds more measured, maybe more mature in some contexts.
That makes sense.
And, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
think about really common physical states, like temperature. We often just default to simple words there.
I'm very cold.
Right. Which is okay, but a bit vague. The advanced term, I am freezing, that immediately tells you the discomfort is extreme, no ambiguity.
Same for heat, right? I am very hot becomes I am boiling.
Exactly.
Oh.
Boiling, it's hyperbolic, yeah, but totally normal in conversation. These words, they don't just sound better, they tap into common idioms, painting a quicker, clearer picture.
Boiling and freezing. Yeah, everyone gets those instantly. Okay, next up. Describing things. Attributes, skills, appearance. This feels important for describing yourself or your surroundings confidently.
Definitely. Precision in description.
So starting with size, with scale, instead of I am very small, the upgrade is I am tiny.
Tiny.
And the opposite, I am very big, becomes I am enormous.
Enormous. Good, strong adjectives. But hang on. There's a little nuance there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Well, choosing between tiny and enormous, it often brings a certain feeling, a connotation. Tiny can feel cute or delicate.
Right, like a tiny puppy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas enormous suggests something maybe overwhelming or heavy or even difficult.
Ah, okay. So it's not just size, it's the impact of the size.
Often, yeah.
Mm.
We use them for emphasis, not just neutral facts.
That really does elevate it. Okay, what about skills? This is a big one. We stop using just good or not good. Instead of I am good at this, we shift to the more confident I am skilled at this.
Skilled sounds much more competent.
And if you're learning,
Yeah.
instead of maybe sounding a bit negative with I am not good at this, you can frame it as I am inexperienced in this.
That's a great reframe. Inexperience implies it's temporary, a stage you're going through, not a permanent lack of ability.
Exactly. And then there's I am ready versus I am prepared.
Ooh, good one. Ready can just mean right now.
Yeah.
But prepared. That suggests you've thought ahead, you've planned, you've done the work. In any kind of professional or serious context, prepared sounds much stronger.
Definitely implies foresight.
Okay, and we see that same need for precision with things like tidiness.
We do. Describing a space, maybe? Instead of it's very clean, you get it's spotless.
Spotless, much more vivid.
And the opposite, very dirty, becomes the really impactful. It's filthy.
Filthy, yeah, you can almost feel that one.
And the sources also help distinguish between just looking neat and actually being organized. So rather than just neat, we might describe someone or their work as well organized.
Okay, more about the system.
Exactly. And the opposite of very messy becomes disorganized, again, focusing on the underlying structure or lack of it.
Right. And lastly in this section, intelligence. I am very smart gets boosted to I am brilliant.
Brilliant. High praise. And here we need to look closely at the negative pairing.
Okay.
The sources swap I'm very stupid for I am foolish. Now, I wonder, is this just about language or is it also about social strategy? What do you mean?
Well, calling someone stupid often feels like judging their core intelligence, something permanent.
Yeah, it's harsh.
But calling an action or a person foolish? That often suggests a temporary lapse in judgment, a specific mistake, maybe? It feels a bit softer, maybe more targeted at the behavior than the person.
So it's a more diplomatic choice, potentially, using a higher register word to soften the criticism.
Possibly. It's a really good example of how vocabulary choice can be quite tactical in conversation.
That nuance is huge. That's a great takeaway for listeners right there, using language strategically.
Yeah.
Okay, moving into section 4. Status, timing, persona. Let's start with money.
Always relevant.
So if someone's financially well off, I am very rich, gets that classic, maybe more sophisticated upgrade. I'm wealthy.
Wealthy, yeah. Feels more stable, perhaps.
Maybe. And for the other extreme, severe poverty, we go from I am very poor to that sharp single word. I am penniless.
Penniless. Very stark.
And the swaps for luck work well, too. I am very lucky becomes I am fortunate.
Fortunate. Sounds a bit more reflective, maybe.
Yeah. And I am very unlucky gets upgraded to I am unfortunate.
Similar vibe. And think about how we describe fame or public recognition.
Right.
The sources swap I am very famous for I am well known. Now, this is interesting
Why is that?
because famous can sometimes imply, celebrity, maybe even notoriety. But well known often suggests respect, achievement within a specific field or community.
Ah, like a well-known scientist versus a famous movie star.
Exactly. Choosing well known can instantly make the conversation feel more professional or serious.
I hadn't really pinned down that difference before. Well-known versus famous. That focus on professional achievement is a really useful distinction, especially if you're talking about your career or industry.
It is.
Okay, let's shift to power, physical or social. I am very strong becomes I am powerful.
Powerful suggests influence, capability, maybe not just physical strength.
Right, and the opposite, I am very weak, gets upgraded to I am feeble.
Feeble can sound quite frail.
And talking about importance, self-worth even, I am very important is perhaps better put as I am significant.
Significant.
Yeah.
That feels precise. If something's significant, it has weight, it has impact, it demands attention.
Yeah. And conversely, I am very unimportant gets upgraded to the, quite blunt, I am insignificant.
Insignificant. Leaves little room for doubt.
Okay, finally for this section, let's touch on timing phrases. These trip people up a lot.
They do. Using very with early or late.
Exactly. The advanced phrasing uses these specific, almost status-related phrases. So, I am very early becomes I am ahead of time.
Ahead of time. Sounds organized, prepared.
And I am very late becomes I'm behind schedule.
Behind schedule. Again, it acknowledges a structure, a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
These phrases aren't just different words. They signal a certain professionalism or awareness. That's part of sounding confident.
Totally agree. Okay, our final group of swaps. This is about personality, how we interact, our mannerisms, really key for social situations.
Very much so. Rapport building.
So, describing someone who's just generally good-natured, instead of the basic, I am very nice, you might use the warmer, more descriptive, I am kind-hearted.
Kind-hearted feels deeper than just nice.
Yeah. And for the opposite, I am very mean, gets replaced by the much stronger, I am cruel.
Cruel. Definitely a higher level of intensity there.
And offering help. This is a great one for sounding, polished. I am happy to help. Gets smoothly upgraded to, I am glad to be of assistance.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect for customer service or any kind of formal interaction.
Yeah,
Sounds very professional and willing.
definitely. And how about staying calm under pressure? I am very calm versus I am composed.
Big difference. Composed suggests real self-control, thoughtfulness, not just the absence of panic. It's an active state.
Like you're managing the situation internally.
Exactly. Now, just like we saw with temperature, the sources give us some strong, almost hyperbolic words for noise levels.
Right.
If something's incredibly loud, I am very noisy. It becomes I am deafening.
Deafening. Wow.
And extreme quiet. I am very quiet becomes I am silent. Again, like with terrified or furious. Probably best to use these high-intensity words carefully so they don't lose their impact.
Good reminder. Don't want to sound overly dramatic all the time. Okay, last pair on our list. Speed. We move from just modifying fast or slow, I am very fast, gets upgraded to I am swift.
Swift.
Yeah.
Implies efficiency, maybe gracefulness and speed.
And I am very slow is replaced by that heavier sounding word, I am sluggish.
Sluggish. Yeah, you can almost feel the lack of energy in that word.
So after going through all of these, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean for the listener?
Well, I think it's incredibly direct, actually.
Yeah.
If you, listening now, feel like you're stuck with simple words, the fix isn't necessarily diving into, complex grammar books.
Right. It's not about sentence structure here.
Not primarily. The key, as the sources show, is this strategic vocabulary substitution. It's about noticing when you rely on weak adjectives propped up by very.
And consciously swapping them out.
Exactly. Making that surgical replacement, going from very cold to freezing or very tired to exhausted or very interesting to fascinating. It instantly boosts your confidence and how descriptive you sound.
Because the word itself is doing more work.
Precisely. The real elegance of these advanced words is that their intensity, their specific meaning is inherent. Starving doesn't need very to tell you how hungry someone is.
Delighted doesn't need very to show joy.
Right. So by using this richer vocabulary, you sound more polished, more authoritative maybe, because the words themselves are carrying the weight. You're not relying on those little helper words like very all the time.
It's economical language, in a way. More impact per word.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, the sources we looked at mainly focused on adjectives and those I am states, which gave us a fantastic practical playbook for immediate improvement.
Definitely actionable stuff.
But here's something maybe to think about, to mull over.
Okay.
How could you apply this same core principle, replacing simple descriptions with single, more evocative words, not just adjectives, but maybe to verbs?
Oh, interesting. Like instead of saying, I walked quickly.
Yeah, or I talked quietly.
Hmm.
Could you find a single, stronger verb, like maybe strode or dashed instead of walked quickly, or
Mm.
whispered or muttered instead of talked quietly?
Using the verb itself to carry the description of how the action was done.
Exactly. Applying that same idea of concise precision to actions, not just states or qualities, that feels like maybe the next step towards really sophisticated expressive English.